In this first video, we're going to be talking about how to properly measure your connect rate in conversations in Salesforce and add it as a key component in your sales development dashboard. So your connect rate is essentially of the people that you're calling, how many of those people are picking up and starting a conversation with you. So if you're calling mobile numbers or phone ready leads, that number is going to be quite a bit higher. And if you're calling to dials just to get your call count up, you know who you are, then it's going to be quite a bit lower. Hopefully you find it appealing, but there's always two things in this world you can count on. It's a good number and a ripe banana. So in this video, we're going to be adding the connect rate component and creating filters to quickly narrow down by the rep and the time frame. So it's important to understand what's happening to the calls and how they're progressing. But the first step is understanding how many of these calls are getting connected and making sure you're dialing the right numbers. It's also a good coaching opportunity to ensure that reps are marking invalid or wrong numbers, so they don't leave them in sequence and dial them week over week. Then you can measure the outcomes of the calls and the outcomes of those conversations, because understanding the conversion of your call outcomes and those conversations can help you quickly diagnose areas to coach to. In my other videos, I'll go over how to create the call outcomes and conversation outcome panels in your dashboard. Quick disclaimer, this very much depends on your Salesforce instance, how it's set up, how you're tracking calls, and how you're tracking connected calls. So there's many ways of doing this. This is just one of them. So you may need to amend the reports appropriately, but this should give you a good kickstart into the right direction. We're going to create two fields on the activity object. The first one's a basic pick list for the type of activity that's taking place, whether it's a call, email, LinkedIn task, and there's a plethora of others. Those are the main three we're going to stick with. And hopefully you have something in your sales engagement platform that's automatically switching what type of activity is taking place. The second field is a formula field. And the formula is essentially saying if the subject line contains connected and the type that field that we just created equals a call, then we're going to mark it as true or false, connected call, or not a connected call. You can try to figure out the formula, or you can just send it to your ops team and ask them to figure it out. All right, so now let's see these fields in action. So now when you log a call and connected is in the subject line, ideally that's being pushed through from the call disposition. And then you change the type as a call, and ideally that's being done automatically. The call connected checkbox will end up being checked, which will be super helpful when it comes to building out these reports. Awesome. So now we have the baseline work done, and now we can create a task and events report. A couple filters we're going to add. We're going to make sure that it's for all time. We're going to make sure these are all completed tasks. And lastly, we're going to add the type field to segment out all of our calls. Once we do that, we're going to move over to the outline, and we're going to banana split these out by the assigned, so whoever was completing those tasks. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and create a formula for our call connect rate. So to create this, we want to make sure it's a percentage. And then we want to make sure that we're dividing the call connects from that field that we created earlier divided by the total row count. So basically all of the connected calls divided by the total number of calls we've made total. Make sure that's a sum, validate it just to double check your work, and then click apply. Lastly, we're going to add the call connect field into a column and sum that. What we're getting here is basically the entire sum or the raw number of call connects that we did total. I like to clear out the detail rows and the row count so that you get the raw numbers, and then make sure that you're saving it so that we can go ahead and add this into our dashboard. Awesome. Now that we're in the dashboard, we're going to add that connect rate report as our first component. So we're going to display it as a table. We're going to segment it out based on the assigned or the reps. And then we're going to add two measured columns. We're going to add the connect rate, and we are going to add the total number of connected calls. So we're going to sum that and then hide the record columns. Once we do that, we're going to sort it by the raw count of connected calls. And then you can add some conditional highlight in here as well. So if you want to see who is below a certain call connect rate or above a certain call connect rate, you can quickly spot check it just to make it super simple. Awesome. So now we're down to creating the filter. The filter should help us narrow all of the components down to just the specific parameters that we're looking for. I always like to add the assigned in there and include the reps, and then also including a date field as well to narrow down the activity by specific timeline parameters, whether it's last year, this year, all time, last week, this week, last 30 days. You can add whichever ones pertain to your situation. Click apply, save it, and you got yourself the start of a sales development dashboard.